Oh, welcome everybody to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I'm Tony Gerdeman here, as always, with Tom or Tom. How's it going?
This is as close as we've gotten to a real live post-game show in quite a while, where it's a live show where, Mark is handing it over to us, where we just got a chance to watch something that consequential in person. So sort of limbering up those post-game show muscles a little bit.
Yeah, I have nothing to add from what Mark and Chuck said. So
all right. So thank you guys for joining us.
No, this was a longer practice than we've gotten. First two practices were 2 hours and 15 periods. This one was like 18 and about 245-ish, and more 11 on 11, more 7 on 7, certainly more 11 on 11, I think, than we've seen before, which was good for the fans, because there are more fans here today, obviously, because it was not a work day and they were able to take it all in. And I'm just going to assume what has already been talked about is that Julian Sayin had the better day today, because I think that is the consensus. And he also closed well. I think just watching him in that final 11 on 11, I think it was 4 for 4, 5 for 5 with the ones. And then Lincoln Keynotes followed him up with the second team, and he was maybe like 1 for 5 or so. But before that, Lincoln had the ones, and so they were switching back over and over. But I think Julian was more accurate. Lincoln had some issues today, and I'm guessing that's the consensus.
That has been, when I sort of talked to some other beat folks, that's sort of where I think a lot of them sort of landed on the day. That's certainly where I landed on the day. And that has not been the case every day. There was, I think, day one, there were some people who thought Lincoln was better. Day two, there were people who, you could kind of get people who had both opinions on day two. Day three, Saturday, it feels like Sayin was kind of came out ahead, was kind of the consensus. And not just based on the stuff at the end. There was a throwing drill they were doing where they were thrown from like the 40-yard line or so on the far hash, and basically trying to drop it in the bucket for a receiver right on the goal line. Sayin was just more consistent on that, where, you're aiming for the goal line and it's, on about the goal line. It's a yard short. It's a little yard long. Lincoln Keynotes was just a little bit more, the range was a little bit bigger. Hey, this one was a couple of yards into the end zone. This was maybe a couple of yards short. He's not throwing it out the back of the end zone or anything, but it was just a little bit tighter kind of grouping for Julian Sayin.
Yeah, just overall, I thought he was in more control, and was even on his inaccurate throws, he was more accurate than on Lincoln's inaccurate throws, because he had some throws Lincoln did that were, not just late, but behind over the middle on a crossing route, which could be that's
danger. That's danger, Will Robinson.
Especially when somebody gets, like, the receiver Bryson Rogers, like, gets a hand on the ball and pops it up. Like those are the throws that you really have to avoid. And and then Tavian St. Clair doing what he can, but it's clearly a two-person race, as Ryan Day has continued to say, and as we have continued to say. But
Tavian St. Clair, just real quickly, the tools are there. The arm strength is there. You can just see the game is moving fast for him right now. And he's a true freshman. The game should be moving fast for him right now. We constantly hear guys talk about in their second year, hey, everything's really slowing down for me now. I'm sure Tavian St. Clair will get there. You can just see in everything he's doing on the field in those 11 on 11s, even against the second team defense, it's still moving a little quickly for him.
I thought one of the cooler things, and I just tweeted this out, is that we've been here with the fans for 3 days. The amount of, like, dads and kids pointing out Jeremiah Smith and talking about Jeremiah Smith totally reminds me of when, as a kid, I would get to go to Chicago to watch the Bulls and Michael Jordan, and you're like, in the Chicago Stadium, you're like looking way down, like, that's Michael Jordan. The way that the hushed tones are, like, then the excitement, like, that's Jeremiah Smith, and kids like, where? And dad's like, right there, and it's like, oh. So that's very cool.
Yeah, looks like we have a super chat.
We do, bro. Ratutu, do we see less handsiness from IGB?
He's been very good.
He has been. Davis Nagbendosen has had a very good camp, and
he lets everybody know it.
Right. Well, he plays corner, so yes, that sort of comes with it. I think he is in for a real step forward kind of year for Ohio State, because you got to remember, this is his third season at Ohio State now, And he came in and, was not probably quite ready for where he was asked to be a couple of years ago. Last season, he was a lot better. And I think he sort of is suffering a little bit from the reputation of the first year, where then you see a pass interference call, it's, oh, here we go again. And that's not necessarily fair to him, because he also had, I go back to the end of that first half against Penn State, that interception, that was one of the plays of the year. And you don't necessarily see that and go, are you going to see more of that? Or it's kind of more like, oh boy, you see more of this. And he's going to be a physical corner. You can be a physical corner. Matt Patricia talked about that on Friday with us.
Yeah, no, don't just, it's the grabbing when you don't need to grab that they don't want. But he's been very, very good. We can stick with the corners right now. We saw Jermaine Matthews play a little bit inside. He's still, he's done that in the past. Saw Bryce West move outside. He's been in the slot for most of his first year plus at Ohio State. So, and he had a very good day outside. Devin Sanchez, of course, playing outside as well. He had an interception of Tavian St. Clair. He also had a welcome to college football moment where he's lined up against Jeremiah Smith. Jeremiah Smith, runs a 9, just goes just a streak down the sideline. I don't think there's no double move or whatever. It's different when you try to turn and run with Jeremiah, and Jeremiah had him by a couple of yards, and the ball got dropped in, right to him for a touchdown. That's just many. We saw a lot of good corners and defensive backs having that happen to them last year. So don't take it personally.
A lot of corners who are not true freshmen are going to have that happen to them this year. So yes, I would not read that as any kind of a concern. He had an interception today, Devin Sanchez. I mean, he's coming along. He's right where you'd want him to be as a true freshman corner. Not every true freshman is going to be 2024 Jeremiah Smith. That's just Jeremy. All the dads and kids are talking in hushed tones about Jeremiah Smith because no one else does that. Right. So Devin Sanchez is right on track for where I think they need him to be, would want him to be, and the depth at corner, man, the defensive backfield on the whole. This looks like a really good secondary this year, where they're going to have a lot of good options. And we saw a lot of different combinations of guys. And you mentioned guys going inside and outside. We've seen a lot of Caleb Downs at nickel. We saw that at one point they were running a dime, and Caleb Downs was at nickel, and Lorenzo Styles was at dime. And they had twos on the outside of corners, Aaron Scott and Bryce West on the outside of corner at that point. But you're looking at this stuff, and at that point, the safeties are Jalen McClain and Malik Hartford. And so you're looking at, you could run like a 3 safety defense. Yeah, you could run you could run that as the nickel and have Caleb Downs be a nickel. But this is the stuff that Matt Patricia was talking about on Friday in terms of not being predictable with, hey, if it's Caleb Downs and Jalen McClain, that means this thing. And if it's Caleb Downs and it's Malik Hartford, it means that thing.
Yeah, and Bryce West at corner makes them even deeper there. Kevin, Super Chat.
Ryan Dawes. Who is the key to success for Sayin? Jeremiah Smith or Max Clair?
Who is the key to success for Julian Sayin, Jeremiah Smith, or Max Clair? Here's something today. Well, Jeremiah Smith, but also the lifeline, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, is Max Clair, that sort of thing. Max Clair was pretty quiet today, and some of the other tight ends weren't, but they weren't necessarily going against Ohio State's first team defense. But what I will say, they ran 2 tight end screens to Max Clair. The first time Sonny Styles blew it up. The second time Arvell Reese blew it up. And I'm thinking Max Clair is probably going in his mind, I'm not here to run screens against the Ohio State linebackers. Send me down the field. This is BS.
Yeah, I'm guessing practice was probably easier for Max Clair last year against the Purdue defense and against the Ohio State defense this year. Can I take secret option C in the pass game? James Peoples. The running backs, it's so hard to judge running backs in this kind of setting where it's just it's 90% thud. And, would the running back have broken that tackle? Well, I don't know. They blew it dead because the guy got kind of close to him. man, there's some speed, there's some wiggle, there's a whole lot in that Ohio State running back room to like. And it's James Peoples, it's CJ Donaldson, it's Sam Williams-Dixon, it's Bo Jackson, it's Turbo Rogers. We haven't seen a whole lot of Isaiah West because he's still kind of been banged up, but I just said 5 names before I got to Isaiah West, and there's a lot to work with there. And I think you're going to see the running backs used a lot in that passing game as well. So, and with all that said, Ethan Onyanwa might also be an important part of Julian Sayin and the secret weapon, because if you can keep that pocket clean for him, that makes your life so much easier as a first-year starter quarterback.
Yeah, and so I was looking to see the catch of the day also answers this question.
Is it grouper?
No, it is not. No, not halibut. And yes, I did once see a fishing hat that said, "I fish just for the halibut." So
I like it.
Thank you for derailing the show.
As a
Brian.
dad, I can approve. Yes.
But the catch of the day from Jeremiah Smith, it was a throw down the sideline from Julian Sayin, underthrown, and Bryce West had good coverage, and Jeremiah Smith just puts his left arm like down here around. It'll be on Twitter. Like Ohio State will have to post this.
Yeah.
But reaches his left arm around, cradles it, falls to the ground, catches the ball. A pass that shouldn't have been completed, but here comes the security blanket to make everything warm and inviting. And then he gets up and just fires the ball about 40 yards into the end zone. No flags, home refs here.
Yeah, right. Well, listen, this is the, if you do something that cool, you should get to celebrate in a way that you don't normally. Right. So yeah, sure. Absolutely. It's I think it was Jim Otis when they scored to make it 50-14 against Michigan in 1968. He punted the ball into the stands, and it's like, well, sorry, you got the just scored 50 points against Michigan exception to the penalty rule there. Yeah, Jeremiah Smith is going to do just the remarkable stuff that Jeremiah Smith did last year, and how can they possibly live up to what Will Howard did last year? Like, well, Will Howard benefited significantly from having Jeremiah Smith on his team last year as well.
Kevin.
Yeah, Mike Farino. How has Beau Atkinson looked? Haven't heard much on him, I feel.
Beau Atkinson did have at least one sack today. It's in my notes. I've got a lot of notes. I can't read most of them. A lot of them require, like, I could run them through like a decipher thing. Like
needed Rosetta Stone to get.
Yeah, it's not good. Yeah. There's just a lot of, even doctors look at this and go like, that's bad.
It looks like hieroglyphics. It's bird, eye, guy going like this.
So I don't know. I don't know who it was against, but like I think the DNs all flashed at some point today. I know I was watching. I wasn't able to see as much on the defensive line as you. I think you're closer, but I heard CJ Hicks had a pretty decent day as well. And and it's just also interesting to watch Kenyatta Jackson just lead everybody around and like just he's got a command presence about him with this team right now.
Yeah, well, he's constantly looks like he's having a very good time. Like he's got a smile on his face a lot. Not that he's screwing around, but he looks like he's having a very good time. He looks like he's in charge of everything. But one of the things I threw on, I did sort of a little bit of a mini practice report on our message board, the Huddle board, Tony, presented by Jeff Ruby's Columbus at BuckeyeHuddle.com. And one of the things that I had on there was it just was a very good day for the defensive ends, especially defensive line, but defensive ends in particular, where Kenyatta Jackson, you saw Kenyatta Jackson make some plays. You saw Caden Curry make some plays. I feel like we have, we've done lots of talking about Kenyatta Jackson. We've not done as much talking about Caden Curry. He looks bigger this year. He looks stronger this year. He's been impressive. But then, Beau Atkinson has been good. But Beau Atkinson, if you've got Kenyatta Jackson and Caden Curry, you don't need Beau Atkinson to be the guy who's picking up 12 sacks. Maybe he is, but you don't need him to be that if you've got those other guys. He's been good when we've seen him, but he was with the twos more than the ones, I think, which – that's probably a good sign because you kind of know what you're getting there. But he's been solid. But you got CJ Hicks today too, where I think at this point we say CJ Hicks and everyone kind of goes, all right, yeah, come on. It feels like they have found the spot for CJ Hicks, where it's like he's in a spot where he can really make a difference because you are seeing him flash with a little more consistency right now. Again, I'm not at the point where I'm willing to say like massive breakout season coming, but I could see a significant breakout season coming for him because it feels like he's now in a role where he can do the stuff that he's really good at doing. This is the stuff that Jim Knowles talked about last year. Like, boy, CJ coming off the edge, he can really be really be a weapon. He now has put on a little bit more weight, so he can now hold up physically in that role a little bit more, but is still really quick off the edge.
Yeah, and I think we also need to talk about what is relative to being a breakout. Like 5.5 sacks in a rotational role for him would be a breakout season.
Oh, yeah.
Just being an impact guy like that. And we saw him in the spring. After practice, he would be talking with Matt Patricia. Like Matt Patricia would have his arm around him. They're talking about this, talking about that. After practice today, he and Ethan Oniano were out there working on sets and doing that sort of thing. So he is taking this very seriously, and it's something that he's wanted. And now that he's got it, we're obviously we'll see the best of him, but it's also going to be like, this is the only year you get to do this at Ohio State. So you're also asking a lot from him.
Yeah, there are some guys that you look at on the roster and you're like, how does this guy still have 3 years? Jason Moore, I looked at it. It's like Jason Moore has 3 years of eligibility. Like, really? It feels like he's been here forever. CJ Hicks is one where it's the opposite. You look, you're like, one more, really? Just one more year of eligibility? But he knows how his first 3 years at Ohio State went, and he made a very affirmative choice to stay at Ohio State this year for his final year of college when, this is a contract year for him. This is a contract year for all the guys who are potentially headed off to the draft in a year. So he knows what's at stake for him. He's taking it very seriously. Who was it? I think we were talking about someone earlier in the week where you heard that Matt Patricia was coming in as Ohio State's defensive coordinator, and the first player they thought about was Laurinaitis. Yeah. The first player they thought about when they heard it was going to be Matt Patricia was CJ Hicks, because it's like, this guy knows what to do with a player like CJ Hicks.
Kevin, you got something?
We got lots of questions that we can get to.
Let's do it.
Start first with Terry. How exciting is the Texas game going to be?
How exciting is the Texas game going to be? I'll tell you what, if it doesn't get any warmer than it's been this weekend, everybody in this game, at least from the Ohio State side, is going to be down with cramps if it's warm that day. But if the weather's like this, this has been fantastic. But, I'm like, how early is too early for one to set the alarm to get here? Like, I'm thinking I would like to be here by like 6:30. I know that's a tough ask. This is the downside of the 12 o'clock kick, but it's going to be big. It's going to be fun. Everybody's going to be here. Lee Corso's last game day thing. And it's like, there's a lot of reasons this is special, but there's some unique things going on, but also it's Ohio State versus Texas, perhaps 1 versus 2. The AP poll's coming out in a couple of weeks, maybe, or a week or so. I don't know. Maybe they should just do 1 versus 2 just to have the uniqueness as well. Like in terms of, we'll figure it out afterwards, but do you like starting it this way? Matt Patricia doesn't. He's like, I come from the NFL, I like preseason, but the only downside is the noon kick.
Yeah. No, I think you're starting the year with an absolute just bomb of a game. It is going to be a game that you hear about for the next month leading up to the game. It's going to be a game that you hear about for the whole rest of the season. You're going to be hearing about that game one way or another on the college football playoff selection shows all fall long. You are going to hear about this game on the final college football selection show on Selection Sunday. 100% guarantee you're going to hear about that game on that show. There are not very many games you can make a 100% guarantee about that. This is going to be one of the absolute biggest games of the year. And to start it with that, you'd like to have a game, I'm sure, like 1 week before where it's like, okay, let's play Grambling and Texas can go play Texas A&M Commerce, and then you can bring in the second game when you have had a little bit of a chance to get warmed up and you've sort of tested all your stuff out. The game is on the schedule for when the game is on the schedule. I was actually thinking about the day of that game, like this morning driving in, thinking like, well, the next time we're here for something of consequence, how early are we going to be there? We can have an editorial meeting about that at some point. But that's going to be a get here early, stay late. There's going to be a lot to talk about one way or the other. And the fun thing about that game, I think we need to also keep some things in perspective. That is not going to be a game that destroys someone's season.
Nope.
That is a game where you have potentially unlimited upside, and the downside is, well, you lost a game, but you have 11 more games, and you still have the margin of error where you can lose another game. You might be able to lose 2 more games, depending on how the season goes. and still make the college football playoff and still have a chance to play for the national championship. So, this is kind of Ohio State being in one of those situations where the SEC constantly gets the benefit of, well, it's two good teams, so the team that wins, they get a win and a half, and the team that loses, well, they only get like half a win because so it's like somehow this game has two wins coming out of it. That feels like that's what this game is going to be, where if Ohio State wins, the winner of this is probably functionally in the college football playoff unless something crazy happens. The loser of the game still very much, alive and with some margin for error.
Kevin?
Yeah, Buckeye Mob 6. How has Philip Daniels looked? Haven't heard anything.
How has Philip Daniels looked? Have not heard anything. He's running with the twos at right tackle pretty much from what we've seen.
Yeah.
I think he's Ian Moore is the number 3 offensive tackle. Philip Daniels is probably 4 right now, and I don't know that anybody's really pushing him at the moment. I don't think he's going to push for a regular spot this year. He's a guy that would be in the mix next year, but this year it's Ethan Onyeonwa, it's Austin Siereveld, and Ian Moore is the next guy in. So you would think that next year it's Austin Siereveld and Ian Moore, unless they need Austin Siereveld at guard, so like there still can be some movement, but he's a ways behind in terms of getting on the field because he's got people in front of him. And again, redshirt freshman last year, started 4 games at the end of the season. That was not necessarily by design. That was by,
by necessity.
Right. And right now the design is we're going to take some time.
Right. There's no rush to get these guys on the field. He still has 3 years of eligibility left. So even if he doesn't play a down this year, he'll have 2 more years of eligibility left. And you're losing Ethan Onyeonwa after this season. If Austin Sierveld's at the other tackle position, he's got 2 more years after this one. You've got Ian Moore has 3 more years after this one. So I think my takeaway on this would be Ohio State is potentially in pretty good shape at tackle for the next several seasons, and Philip Daniels is part of that conversation and part of the reason why that's the case.
Yeah. And then, Carter Lowe had some moments today too, but
yeah,
again, no reason to put a freshman out there.
Well, yeah, a true freshman, absolutely not. He's Carter Lowe had one play where Zion Grady just kind of bull rushed him and bent him back. And it was like, that was to me a very big, Zion Grady kind of play. Cause I remember when Nick Petit-Frere was a true freshman and it was Alex Williams, who was a defensive end from Pickerington, who ended up transferring to Vanderbilt. There was a play where Alex Williams took Nick Petit-Frere and he did a back somersault because he got beat so bad off the ball. This was not anything like that, but as a true freshman at tackle, yeah, man, it's going to take some time in the weight room. It's going to take some time with the coaches. You're not ready yet. You don't want to have to put a true freshman out there. Ohio State is very fortunate to not be in that position, and that allows Carter Lowe time to develop and also be a part of that. Why Ohio State's probably in pretty good shape at tackle for the next few years.
And yesterday, Carter Lowe just stood up Zion Grady in one of the reps that I saw. So it's every day you're talking about 2 true freshmen.
Yep.
Kevin?
Adam Baker, who is replacing Edric Houston with the starters?
Who is replacing Edric Houston with the starters right now, Tom?
So we have seen at the 3-tech spot, we saw both Tywan Malone and Jason Moore. I would say I saw a little more Malone with the ones than Jason Moore. So, and neither of them were huge, jump out at you, massive, showy performances. But you're also going against the interior of the Ohio State offensive line, which should be pretty good this year. So I didn't see anything that was this is a big concern, but I also didn't see anything that was this is a big wow. The biggest piece of news, I think, on that front is that after just walking every time we saw him yesterday, Edric Houston was jogging on and off the field today. I thought it was consequential enough that I put a 4 or 5 second video on Twitter, just hey, look, we promise, here's what he's doing. So progress there with Edric Houston already, slow, but just from day to day, from Thursday, everyone will be ready to jump off the roof, to Friday, it's probably okay, to Saturday, now he's jogging again. That feels like a pretty good trend line.
He has risen from the grave. Kevin?
Yeah, Sun City, Arizona Living with Aaron Serpola asks, do they look like they could be a championship team this year?
Tom, does this look like when you watch these guys dropping passes out here, not able to complete 15 passes in a row, can't protect their quarterback every single time? Does this, with all of the teams you've seen this year, does this look like a championship team to you? This is probably the best team you've seen this year. Also, Tom, is this the worst team you've seen this year?
I'm reminded of Ryan Day talking to when RJ Day, his son, is like taking these visits. Ryan Day talked about going to spring ball, Clemson or somewhere, and talking to the coaches there. And whoever it was, the coach basically said, yeah, man, that first day of practice, you feel like, oh man, we're not going to win a game this year. And Ryan just kind of like laughed. He was like, oh, thank goodness. Okay, I thought I was the only one that felt that way. Here's the short answer there. Yeah, it's an Ohio State team. Yeah, they could win the national championship this year. 100% they could win the national championship this year because they are one of the 5-ish most talented teams in the country, and they have a lot of talent in a lot of crucial spots. I look at the offensive line. I feel like the offensive line's in pretty good shape. I look at the defensive line. I feel better about the defensive line now than I did 3 days ago.
Yeah.
And you just look at you have a Caleb Downs. Boy, a Caleb Downs makes up for a lot of whatever everywhere else. A Jeremiah Smith makes up for a lot of whatever everywhere else. You have a lot of opportunities that other teams don't have. So yeah, this is potentially a national championship team. Am I going to pick them to win the national championship? No, probably not. I'm certainly not going to pick them to go undefeated. But this is an Ohio State team. Probably any of the last how many years do you have to go back to an Ohio State team that could not have won the national championship with slightly better fumble luck or turnover luck or weather or whatever?
I mean, is the answer like 2011 when that was the only time they wouldn't be making the playoffs?
Right. Yeah. I mean, you could say 2017 had some, had significant enough flaws, but some of it also has to do with how good is everyone else, and how good is everyone else. I keep hearing it's a down year for quarterbacks. It's a down year for quarterbacks, and with Ohio State, there's still sort of a little bit of a question in terms of who that starting quarterback is, but the ceiling is potentially there for Ohio State at quarterback. So. And would you bet against a Ryan Day offense and a Brian Hartline coached wide receivers? Right. And I wouldn't. Yeah,
and you look at just position by position, you feel pretty good overall. Like I think they're going to be very good at running back. Receivers, obviously, tight end might be the deepest room on the team and in the country. Offensive line looks fine. Bunch of defensive ends, some defensive tackles that you like, but you can also kind of get around the lack of depth at defensive tackle at times by throwing in another defensive end or playing some 3-man lines. Linebackers, I think, are going to be fantastic. Secondary is going to be very, very good. So, like the biggest question is quarterback, where you've got the guys that you like. So, if not Ohio State, like they're going to be one of those teams. And I'm not going to say they're going to win it, but they have as good a chance as anybody else in the top 5 or 10 that you had mentioned.
Well, you go through what are the odds right now? How many teams have better national championship odds than them? I can't think of.
Kevin says 2.
2? Okay, so
they're tied with one.
They're tied with one of them. So yeah, I mean, you can go through and go, well, yeah, but they have this question and that question and that question. Go through any other team in the nation, and that team will also have similar questions or more.
Kevin?
Terry asks, who's next to lose their black stripe?
Ooh, who is next to lose their black stripe?
Well,
did anybody lose it today?
I did not see anyone today. I'll pull up the black stripe draft.
Has Devin Sanchez lost his yet?
I don't think
this is a good question. Beau Jackson would be a good pick. Again, Phillip Bell had a good day today. Beau Jackson is going to be tough to beat because he had one play where he ran to the left and he's running through kind of traffic, and then there's like 4 guys chasing him and they can't catch him, and they finally blew the whistle after like 35 yards because it's like, come on, we got to run another play.
We get it.
We get it.
You made your point.
Enough.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the black stripe draft. Did anyone lose it this spring? Quincy Porter
did. I don't know that Devin Sanchez did.
I don't think I don't
It
remember.
may
if
have
he
just
did
been
or
Quincy Porter. So
yeah, Devin the guys who are kind of at the top of our black stripe draft are Devin Sanchez, Riley Pettyjohn, TJ Alford, Fahim Delane, Tavian St. Clair, Bo Jackson. Feeling pretty good about getting Bo Jackson 7th overall. I'm not going to lie to you about that. You had Eli Lee 8th.
really,
Yes. Yeah.
we should redo this draft.
You had Isaiah West 9th.
I have Turbo Rogers.
I had Zion Grady 10th. I had Carter Lowe 11th. You had Turbo Rogers 17th. So
Summer and Rolly, they always fall to the back of the draft.
I had Phillip Bell 18th. Not feeling too bad about that one. So
I don't like the black stripe draft.
Will I win the black stripe draft again for the 4th straight year? Listen, I don't know. Anything could happen, including the same thing that always happens.
Thanks for the question. The answer is Bo Jackson.
Thank you for the question.
Jeff Johnson, any chance Lee Corso doesn't don the Buckeye headgear?
Any chance Lee Corso doesn't don the Buckeye headgear? I mean, I think it would certainly be poetic for him to end his thing with the same way he started his thing. And I'm sure you're going to have plenty of people on that stage picking Texas. So then that keeps you from getting memed with where everyone picked Texas. Yeah.
Yeah. I would say, and again, I think I said this in the past, in a year where John Cena has turned heel, don't sleep on Lee Corso pulling up the Brutus head and then being like, not quite like he did it at Houston, where he's like, tossing it and like, give me that Longhorns head, and just one last time out there. But
does he want to go off the stage getting booed in his final appearance?
But that's also something you would have to respect. Now, will they respect it at the time? No.
Yeah, no.
But I think the answer is when his announcement, when he made the announcement that he was retiring and he's going to do one last game, the obvious answer was he needs to do it at Ohio State. There were people that thought, well, maybe it'll be Alabama, Florida State because he's a Seminole. It's like, no. The obvious answer is to do it at Ohio State, pick Ohio State one last time, and then ride off into the sunset.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be sort of how you would write it. I mean, we'll see how the analysis of the game shakes up.
And then on Fox, Dave Portnoy will be making a pick. What I would like to see him put on his head is a lawnmower. No.
Two more, unless we get a super chat. El Suzabo, do y'all think we have a better chance to win the Texas game earlier in the season or later? Early, then don't have any scouting on us. Late, we're playing together better. Thoughts?
That's a good question. Is it better to play Texas early in the season before there's a ton of scouting that Texas can do? I think there's a lot of value in Ohio State's defense not showing anything prior to playing against Texas's offense. But is that more valuable than getting the quarterbacks at Ohio State enough, an opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably a lower scoring game at the beginning of the season because you don't really know what the Ohio State offense is going to look like. Texas doesn't know what the Ohio State defense is going to look like. Ohio State has just played Texas's offense, but how different is the offense going to be with Arch Manning versus Quinn Ewers? So, I think my strongest take here is that it's going to be a lower scoring game earlier in the season than if they play later in the season. I guess that favors, I mean, I don't know. How are you feeling about Texas's defense? Because it's just Texas's defense. It's like they lost their interior of the defensive line. They lost some of the really talented players in the back end of the defense. I think that is in Ohio State's best interest early, I think, but there's just, if Jim Knowles is here, it feels like the answer might be different than with a brand new defense with Matt Patricia.
I think I'm going to go with early in the season as well, like to open. I wonder what Ryan Day would say. Maybe that's something we could ask him, but I don't know that you're going to get an answer.
Then he's going to tell you that the game's on the schedule when the game's on the schedule. So it's a great question that we can answer, and he will never choose to.
Kevin,
last one from Ty Kroner. Of all the transfer players, who has seemed to adjust the best so far? I've been hearing a lot of praise for C.J. Donaldson.
Yeah, of all the transfer players, who has adjusted the best? He's heard a lot of praise of C.J. Donaldson. And Beau Atkinson has just gotten here in the last, post spring
couple months. Yeah.
It is interesting when these guys come in, they are welcomed and they're made to feel welcome, and then they pretty much get along but they're all, working in the weight room and needing each other. But I would agree with the CJ Donaldson thing. He's come in and they need that veteran aspect in the running back room because they don't have it. So him there is valuable in a number of ways, but he had a pretty good spring. He's continued to show up out here as well. Eli Brickhandler, Tom, he did not do much today because they were just going with the scrimmaging with the three quarterbacks. But I'd say CJ Donaldson, and then Beau Atkinson is doing his thing. And Philip Daniels, we talked about earlier, he's still trying to feel his way. He had the West Virginia transfer lineman who is still
Justin Terry.
Terry still just feeling his way. But yeah, would you agree it's Donaldson?
I think Max Clare is probably the one that would be.
That guy.
Yeah,
there's so many tight ends.
He's been here long enough that I feel like we've been talking about him so long. He was here for, he was there at the Cotton Bowl. I feel like he was basically here last year. So yeah, I think you'd go Max Clare, CJ Donaldson, Beau Atkinson in some order. One that I wouldn't sleep on is Jackson Corville, the kicker transfer from Ball State. I don't know what the plan is there yet. I think they're probably still figuring it out to a certain degree. This is far from scientific, but when I've been watching, he's been very, very good in practice. Jaden Fielding's been good too. It's not, this is not one's been bad, but Jackson Corville has come in and immediately, for whatever it's worth in practice, has looked pretty good when I've been watching.
Now, I got to see them both kick 52 yarders in this last 11-on-11 portion at the end of practice. And I'm watching from the side, and both were waved off wide right, but they've got the goalpost, then they've got the interior goalpost.
Yes.
So I don't know if they were outside of the interior.
I think they are just measuring on the inside because they have one end of the field where they have, maybe I'll run out and take a picture of that after and throw it on our board, but they have a set of goalposts where there's an interior set of goalposts that are maybe half the width of the other ones because they don't want you to have to just barely do it. Before practice, I saw them out there kicking, and they were trying to hit the uprights, and hitting the uprights with shocking regularity from 35, 40 yards out. So, these are guys who are very, very, very talented at what they do.
There's a pretty decent cross breeze too, so they were definitely having to work it. Tom, anything else before we get out of here? I think we're gonna have a bunch of our thoughts and views on the Buckeye Huddle message board, and I'll write up a practice report as well once I eventually get somewhere where I can do that. But go ahead and check that stuff out at the Buckeye Huddle message board presented by Jeff Ruby's Columbus. And I know I cut you off, Tom. Did you have anything else that you wanted to say, or are you just going to tell people to go to the board?
I was just going to tell people to go to the board, but you already cut me off. So
there you go. Thank you for sticking with us. For all of you who dropped after we got the switch from Mark Juck, I'll talk to you people later. But thank you for the chats, the super chats, and all of that. And we will talk to you guys later.